نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. We express our praise and gratitude to Allah Ta'ala, and we seek blessings upon the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So when we left off last time, we were having the conversation about marriage, permissibility of marriage to non-Muslims, to people of the book and such. And so just to revisit the ayah, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا, and do not marry al-mushrikat hatta yu'min, do not marry mushriks until they believe. وَلَا أَمَّةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِنْ مُشْرِكَةٍ وَأَعْجَبَتْكُمْ. So here it says a believer who is a slave, a bondwoman, is better than a mushrik. Essentially the implication of free mushrik. Why would that matter? Or why is this point, what is the wisdom behind mushrik? So in terms of the Islamic ethic, yeah, that if the father is free, then all the children will be free, inshallah. The wife, I would assume she would be free, but I don't remember the specific details, because I remember that the big issue often was the status of the children, that if he marries her, then automatically she's free, right? So I don't know why she wouldn't be, now that I think about it. Yeah. But what else is the ethic that's being stated here? That our measurement is of iman, it's not of social status, right? So someone of high social status without iman is not good as someone who has low social status but has iman. The one with low social status with iman is higher, is better choice than high social status without iman. And the same thing when it says وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ, the translation here says even though she pleases you. You can also translate this as even though you find her beautiful. So social status is still secondary. Beauty is secondary. All of them are secondary to iman. So, and we all know this, right? We know the hadith that you get married for something like 4 reasons: iman, beauty, wealth, lineage. And you should get married for purposes of iman. Okay. So the point I'm making here is that this ayah is also giving us those, like this ethical relationship. Okay. So a believing slave is better than a mushrik, even though she pleases you. And then the mushrik invites you to the fire, and Allah invites you to the garden, and Allah invites you to forgiveness by Him. Okay. And to make the ayahs clear so that people can reflect. What do you think? Is this language, many would feel that this is severe. If you marry a mushrik, the mushrik is inviting you to the fire. Yeah.
There's an ayah in the Quran. وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَقْرَبَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَخَافُ.
Okay.
ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ مِنْهُمْ قِسِّيسِينَ وَرَحْمَانِينَ وَأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ.
Okay.
Those that you believe is the people who say they're Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And they dedicate their life to learning prayer.
Okay.
And they're not Arabs.
Okay.
Now, how do we connect the two? This ayah, and that ayah.
Okay.
Come up with something that, well, the Christians are mushrik or something.
But this is not saying that the Christians are mushrik. This is talking about a separate category. So the Christians would be Ahl al-Kitab.
They're not mushrik.
The mushrik would be a different category.
The Christians are not mushrik.
Meaning, you can say the Trinity is shirk, right? But as a categorizations, Christians would be Nasara or Ahl al-Kitab, right? Mushrik is referring to the idol worshippers.
Like the Hindus or something.
I'm afraid to even say that about Hindus, but the Quraysh, right? Yeah.
That was at that time, virtually, technically.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, there was just this new faith, revival of the faith that was there, and it had completely died out, and people were totally ignorant and don't marry. The believing women should not marry ignorant guys, even if they have wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if these times are. When we say that God has put all these things together, it does not, draw a really severe, tough line. You cannot. These are Jews and Christians or whatever.
Well, I mean, so Jews and Christians would be people of the book.
The thing is, though, is that the Quran is very explicitly saying that the Christians say that God is free, but it emphatically says that He's not free to one.
Mm-hmm.
God would tear apart the earth or the universe if that would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Quran acknowledges that the Christians say that there is three, but the Quran never calls them.
Mm-hmm.
And the Quran always separates them out from the Muslim saying they're nothing like that. So definitely, technically, even though at the time of the revelation, Allah acknowledges that the Shaykh was three.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the Trinity is present.
The three, don't say three. It's not such a cutthroat kind of thing, but that is not true. Even the Hindus will tell you the final reality is one.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will say there's only one God, and the dollar written God is just.
But I'm missing the point that you're making. What's
the mushrik claim the association with God are two or three gods.
But meaning in the Quranic categorization, as I understand it, Christians are people of the book. Mushrik is a different category.
There's no question that they're
But the point is that mushrik is not used for Christians. Yeah. But what about this? Saying that if you were to marry a mushrikah, she is inviting you to the fire. What do you think? That's what it sounds like it's saying. That's, language is very, very... I would say most likely. Yeah, seems like it. Is that language severe or is that language appropriate? I mean, obviously Allah Ta'ala is choosing it, so it's appropriate by definition. But what do you think? Yeah, that this is, at the end of the day, this is the cold hard truth, right? That there are some relations that are prohibited. There are some relations that are on the pathway to fire. Yeah. And so Allah Ta'ala invites to the garden and to forgiveness. So what is the ultimate point here? That I might be marrying someone out of feelings, out of love, what have you, very strong feelings. Obedience to Allah Ta'ala is more important. And as we discussed last time, I've received this question multiple times from people who do active work in the community. Muslim woman wants to marry a Christian man, and I tell them I can't conduct it. I can't conduct the wedding.
As you said, there are one Muslim man,
Yeah. That's the question. That's the big question, right? What advice do we give? I think that's exactly where we left off, what we're going to talk about today, right? What advice should we give? Should we tell all these sisters who can't find husbands that just be patient and don't get married?
There are a lot of Muslims. They're not really good guys.
This is part of the point, that it's hard to find many good guys.
Not
Yeah.
even Muslim or any other faith.
You're just saying guys in general, they're not good. That's what you're saying, yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the Jewish guys, there was he said, I had 2 heavy days in my life. They got.
Subhanallah, okay.
I said, you're lucky at least you got 3. I haven't seen anybody with money.
Yeah, Subhanallah, okay.
But I mean, generally speaking, the society is something that one cannot figure out to see why this reconciliation or relationship cannot be maintained. There's so much interaction, so much money and spending involved, and you agree, it's all over the place.
Okay, so...
Children cannot bring them to the same point.
So what should we say to all these many, many, many sisters, every part of America, right? I don't know how much it spreads to Canada or to Europe. Sorry? So, should we tell them, just be patient? Right?
They cannot. I think marriage is for little children kind of thing. I mean, people who would otherwise do a unforgivable sin, you know, and they have to, like animals or something, they have to marry. It's not for maybe some big boys. I just dedicate my life to God. But common people, they would fear that they would.
This is also part of the concern. It's a real concern, correct? We think that would.
Very direct answer to the question is predictions.
Okay.
But on a related note, just today I read an article about Australians.
Okay.
And probably in the last week or so I've read an article about the Japanese.
Yeah, I saw the headline with the Japanese, but tell us about these articles.
Well, the point with the Japanese is that in the 18 to 25 range, people demographic, the men are not interested in, not only not getting married, they're not interested in sex.
They're just not interested in women.
They're not interested in women at all.
Okay.
And it's a huge segment of the population, on the order of 50% or so.
Wow. So, did they explain why?
But the big reason is because the whole culture revolves around the job that you have and the society has evolved to cater to single individuals, not married.
Mm-hmm.
So you have residences that are intended for one person.
Mm-hmm.
Eating establishments are intended for a lot of single people.
Mm.
They're just trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The article I read today about the Australians is that in the 30-year-old demographic, where they're just past their 20s, they've got their careers going. Now these women want to get married. Up to 30 to 40% of them can't find spouses.
Same problem. They're non-Muslim.
They can't find men.
And where are they?
The men at that point have their choice of the younger women.
Okay.
So the 30-year-old men, they're between 30 and 45, they're dating women in their 20s.
Okay.
And so, the 30 to 40-year-olds, the women they can't find. So this problem that we're having.
It's everywhere, huh?
It's everywhere.
So you're saying it's more related to just this professional culture, that we have? Yeah.
Professional culture, an unattainable ideal.
Okay, what does that mean?
Meaning they're looking for perfect women, perfect men.
That is just not going to happen.
And they're not willing to settle for a dollar.
Mm.
The whole idea of the images that they see is my speculation.
Okay.
Images that
So this is Dr. Dawood now speaking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a computer's mind searching for something and they're not going to find it because it's artificial.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying?
Perfect thing, perfect mama, perfect job, perfect work, perfect drug, perfect. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. So then the problem is not just the ratio, right? The problem is just the expectations are too high. Huh? Your thoughts? Yeah.
Message to men, Muslim men, has to be to have bias like this and explain sociologically and psychologically why this is true. Not just religiously, you're prohibited or it's bad, but why is this better for you?
Okay.
You need to make a better argument for Muslim men.
So-
why a perfect Muslim woman is better for you than
Seemingly perfect. Okay, so what would be some arguments?
Unfortunately, the thing it comes coming back to is how much you care about your afterlife.
Yeah.
That's really the-
I think it's the central question here.
almost any human this world argument, there's always a counter, there's always examples. So
Yeah, I think if your goal is your afterlife, then your goal is to follow the rules as much as possible, right? If that's not your number one goal, then everything's going to become much more negotiable. Yeah. Your thoughts?
No, I agree with both of them. There's really good points. I never thought about that. But I still believe that, the way we grow in society, not here, but in Islamic countries also, that it has become that the men are going out and they are finding women who are more to their standards versus,
Okay.
And that is causing a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But over here, maybe, I think, like you said, the ideals or the standards are just too high. And we're looking for that perfect person that's examined sometimes.
Sure. Any thoughts? Sutab? Just in time, Moise. Yeah. So the question of what, so for every one Muslim male, eligible male, there might be 10 Muslim females, right?
They're only around 4.
Yeah. Well, should we offer that? Should we push this?
I was just wondering because... Where are you getting your statistics? That's what I was
This is purely anecdote, but I think it's pretty. Let's even say it's 1 to 4.
The world is like 50-50.
It may be, but Muslims in Chicago at that age group looking for marriage is not anywhere close to 50-50. Yeah.
I was started in some party or something. There were so many girls. I was just holding like, where there's no guys. There were no
Yeah. Yeah. So the question, Louise, is what advice do we give to the sisters? Right? Is the best advice we can give, be patient. And hopefully you'll find your guy.
The woman said the time is so limited.
Yeah.
She wants to have children.
Well, is there a better answer? That's what I'm asking.
But I think, I really don't encourage that because I mean, it was all jealous. But what I'm saying, I was in Saudi Arabia and the women there already had them.
Okay.
They say, I told them, they said, are you crazy? We get the driver, we get the children, we get everything minus husband everything.
So you're saying that we should consider multiple marriages? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it's what
Okay.
we do.
What do you think?
I mean, that's one option in this society. But I don't think it's for everybody. You can't just make it as a rule. No.
Sure.
But in the Quran also, that's an exception.
Okay. But we're talking about an exceptional situation.
I'm saying that myself, I'm the most jealous,
Yeah.
But Dr. Ali sometimes jokes with me, what will you do if I come with a woman? I said, I'll leave. We'll get both of us out. I said, are you kidding? You in, she out.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, I mean, it's real, but I'm saying maybe the culture, because they are very comfy there, Not because I was pregnant or...
How do
you know they're comfy there? Because I never want to live there. I don't know either. No, but I'm saying the culture is good. That's the thing. I don't think anybody has done 5 years within the rest of my friends.
So,
I mean, you're taking choices away from women and you say they're happy. It's theirs, they think they're real on. No, I really don't think so. Not that I didn't. They can't drive, they can't work. They work. They don't even have proper
they do.
universities.
They do have everything.
Not for women.
Yes, they do.
For higher education.
Yeah, they have it all. Yeah.
They have everything. They can't drive, so what? And they can't work because a lot of women
They-
who have higher education can't even find work. So it's like they are more frustrated.
I don't think it's anywhere close to our stereotypes about those places. I think the women there have a lot more autonomy than we imagine.
I think that's just a perception because when I went for Umrah and Hajj, I felt really ashamed to be there because it's such a rich country and women were begging there.
Fine, but that does not reflect the entire status of all the women.
Yeah,
Right.
but that is what you see as a tourist when you go.
Sure, but nevertheless, there's I'm saying factually, not perception, that women have a lot more autonomy there than we imagine. Not as much as we have here,
But do
but
they have choices?
they have a lot more choices than we imagine.
They do have choices.
Yeah, I mean,
Or to drive or to walk.
the driving is essentially become
You can go for Hajj from here without a visitor. I mean, what kind
Sure.
of...
okay again,
those
but
are all rules made by them. There is
fine, but
nothing Islamic about
none of that negates the point that we're making here. That the driving issue is become more of a symbolic issue, right? That the impression is they're not allowed to drive, therefore they're not allowed to do anything. Yes, they're not allowed to drive, but the common household will have a driver, and commonly the only people in the car will be the woman and the driver, which you think how would Saudi Arabia allow this? This is also the normal practice, right? Yeah, that's the point I'm making. That even the Saudis themselves point out these contradictions. Yes.
One thing I'll say, and talking about October 26th is when it's protest days when we are thinking.
And just start driving. Yeah.
And it happened a few years ago too, and there was severe consequences for people. But that issue does keep coming up about the driving.
Absolutely. That's it. Meaning, it's one of those issues that's a real law and has a lot of symbolic weight, right? And you can definitely take it as a symbol that other things are also restrictions too. But the point I'm making is that that Saudi women are not as restricted as we imagine them to be, right? That in a lot of cases it might be that we could say they're working around all this, right? Nevertheless, yeah, I suspect it's also those who are middle class and above have a lot more autonomy.
But talking about this argument is not the only one, but this specifically talking about Muslims.
Yeah.
And then we made this point about how Christians have a different category.
Uh-huh.
So how would you make the argument to a Muslim woman that you can't marry a Christian? Are there other
This goes down to the way that the Quran gets read. Okay, so the default that's taken is a Muslim is supposed to marry a Muslim. Okay, and then these exceptions are given. So meaning one Muslim is supposed to marry one Muslim. So one exception is the 2, 3, 4. Another exception is Muslim men can marry such and such and such. Right? That's how it's commonly read. Meaning it's laying out the baseline, and then the other points are looked at as exceptions. You know.
Grammatically, is the masculine gender used, or is it just the uniform?
Let's take a look. So اليوم أهل لكم طيبات. So today all طيبات are made lawful for you. وتعامل وتعامل الذين أوتوا الكتاب. So the food of the people of the book حل لكم وتعامكم حل لهم, and their food is lawful for you. والمحسنات, feminine, من المؤمنات والمحسنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم إذا آتيتموهن أجورهن محسنين غير مصافحين ولا متخذي أخدان, and then whoever rejects, so forth and so on. So yeah, it's the feminine form again, muhsinat, yeah. So it's basically saying that you can marry.
And then there are Sunnis and Shias, and there are Bahanis, and there's the other sects. They believe in God. They may not be typically worship, but again, some classification of this and that. So there are families. So it goes on all over.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
I mean, the Shias, the Sunnis, they're aggressive. I mean, my niece, some Shias guys were asking, they asked me, and I said, oh, he's a nice guy, educated, last name Prof. He said, no, he's a Shia. And the Imam said, well, this is not good and all that thing, so it's a whole lot of it.
There are those issues too, but in terms of, the
I
context
don't
of
know
what you're...
if this thing is more pointing to the cultural thing that who are from the south and the north and they don't put a lot of difficulty in this marriage. Essentially, maybe that's the rich and the poor, this and that.
Sure.
There's all kind of things, and be careful that you marry somebody that is close to your values and things and stuff.
Sure,
like
sure.
that.
5-5. Were you making a point? Or actually, did you raise your hand?
No,
Okay, good. So I will make another point, though, that in my limited experience, those women who do very actively go search for husbands, they seem to find husbands. That the ones that go search and search and search and search and search, they do seem to find husbands. Right?
Then
You know, through all these different, Muslim matrimonial, e-harmony, all those things. Correct.
these are very much, they don't want to marry a Pakistani husband. Even they're believers in the same faith and Sunni thing.
Sure.
I don't want an imported husband.
Sure.
I don't want an imported wife.
Right.
My son tells me, Pop, I grew up in this culture and this and that, and I cannot marry a Pakistani. So it's not only mushrik and this and that, it's so many things.
Sure, sure. And this goes back to the point of the people who want something that's completely perfect and this and that, according to them. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your comment also. Okay. 222. All right. So another question that the Prophet, peace be upon him, received was regarding haid, menstruation. It is an illness, so let women alone at such times, so on and so on. I don't really know what to have a discussion about regarding this, unless anyone has any questions. Okay. What do you think about this line? Sorry?
I don't like the expression, but it is Quran, so I use it.
Yeah, at the end of the day. Who is Allah Ta'ala speaking to at that time? Speaking to an audience that is used to a patriarchal environment. Right. Yeah.
I don't mind that so much because you wouldn't, if you were growing crops, you take care of that.
Sure.
Down to
Very nice.
your whole sustenance sometimes comes from them. I mean, you could extend this metaphor to
Sure.
how the way you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe the crowd that Allah is addressing needs the crude language. I feel like because these are targeted audience also, that, then exceptions. Sometimes you have to hit them with that for them to understand common stuff as far as, because they are different.
Okay.
Men are different from women, and sometimes they are not sensitive enough. So
Okay.
it
But
makes more sense to me.
yeah, I think you made the interesting point about crude language. In our language, this would be crude. Yeah. The question is, was this crude at that time? This is more related to your question. That I would suspect probably not. Yeah, Moise?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like speaking words were common then, especially in its explanation. Especially during that time, the considerations like agricultural, before even when we discussed about Jahiliyyah period, when they had daughters born,
Sure.
they needed sons to work the fields. Like,
Sure.
almost every level was
Okay.
important to have something like that. So this seems like a very, very big one.
Okay.
Personally, it's being, or people to invest in.
Okay. Okay.
How important is that explanation in the parentheses to cultivate?
Well,
Is the justification of this?
so it's placed in there. Now, the interesting thing is the word that translates, I don't know if this translator is conscious of it, the word in Arabic that you would translate from cultivate is falah. What does falah commonly translate as? Success.
That's very different.
Yeah. So when we
The
say,
ayah before, it says, read some goodness from your heart. I mean, use your common sense, And the one ayah before is very beautiful. Use your common sense. Go to them and go really things. But the thing is, you have to use your common sense and judgment and stuff like that. I think overall it's very educated. But people, a society that was, not that educated, and this kind of language is very beautiful. When I read that, I thought I'm going to memorize the whole Quran. Because I asked a doctor about this thing, and a Korean doctor, and he gave me a very crude answer. And I weighed this thing against a doctor, MD, who's educated in Korea, and this country, he has passed the exam. And to weigh it against that language, I thought I'm going to memorize the whole Quran.
So then what does it say after that? Send before you good for your own souls. So وَقَدَّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. And then wattaqullah, so, and have taqwa of Allah, wa'lamu annakum mulaqu, and you will meet Him. Wa bashir al-mu'minin. Okay. So what do we have here, all being laid out? We have different aspects, essentially, of gender relations being spoken to a man. Raise your hand. Okay. From there, oaths. وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لِأَيْمَانِكُمْ. So do not make Allah Ta'ala someone that will deflect you from your oaths. Okay. Or a hindrance, tabarru, or a hindrance. وَاتَّقُوا, and so have taqwa. وَتُصْلِحُوا, and reform things بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, among people. Okay. وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And this goes hand in hand with ayah 225, which will go with 226, but we'll get to 226 in a moment. وَلَا لَا يُؤَخِذُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah Ta'ala does not take you بِاللَّغْوَ. So He does not take you to task for things that you say, بِاللَّغْوَ فِي أَيْمَانِكُمْ, for oaths that you don't really mean. وَلَكِنْ يُؤَخِذُكُمْ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ قُلُوبَكُمْ. But He will take you to task for what you've taken in your heart. وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ حَلِيمٌ. So in simple language, what are we saying? That when you make an oath, when you make a commitment with your heart, you have to fulfill it, unless it involves some haram. Okay. But if you did not mean it, He will not hold you to account. Good. What would be a scenario where someone would make a commitment, an oath, but they didn't mean it? Sorry? But I was saying, give me a context where I would even make an oath that I don't mean. Sorry? But like, what would be an example of that? GD. Even simpler than that, I'll give you two examples. One is, yeah, Moise.
This be referencing like someone who's basically they're facing death.
So this is one scenario. So one scenario is that do you renounce your Islam? If you don't renounce your Islam, you're going to die. Okay. And so yes, then, right? So they don't mean it; they're doing it to preserve life. Okay. That would be one scenario. What about the scenario of a husband who keeps saying talaq, 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 talaq over and over again because he has an anger problem? Should we apply this here? Okay. The reason why I'm asking, ayah before this is about gender, the ayah after this is about separation.
It depends which madhab they ask. Some of them will accept this as done here, but the Quran is going against that. That's
So-
exactly what it says. That they were just saying it is not. And it has to be done with a period of talaq.
Okay, so suppose someone out of anger says talaq first time and thinks, okay, well, I said talaq, so I have to begin the period, the 3 or so months. What should they do?
They forget the period.
So they've said it, right? Should they go through the whole process? Or it was just a bad temper and just ignore it? Ignore it? So, meaning, okay, you say it once, you start the waiting period. Okay. Within that waiting period, you can change your mind and end it. Meaning, end the divorce proceeding. And you're back to marriage. Then you get another chance to do it. You say talaq, some point in the future. 5 years in the future, 5 months, 50 years in the future. Say talaq, it starts the period again. Okay. Before the deadline passes, you can change your mind. If the deadline passes, you're done. Okay. So what happens, and this happened as early as the time of Omer, may Allah be pleased with him, that to taunt their wives, husbands would say talaq, 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 right? And then Omer says, okay, if I find out you're doing this, I'm taking your wife from you, right? You can't torture your wife through this. Okay? You can't use that becomes a form of abuse. Good. But suppose the person did 2 talaqs, one 5 years ago, one 2 years ago. This time, loses his temper, says talaq. Okay? Does it count?
See what happens of that woman, whether she accepts it or not. She's not like
A ragdoll?
yeah, she has a say. She
Okay.
said, don't get that lost. Not difficult.
Okay. Okay.
But, the way you are describing it, everything is in the hand, and woman is only a puppet. It's not
This is, but that's how we commonly practice it in our community, though, right?
They can practice.
Okay.
It's really sad.
I mean, essentially the common way it plays out, because a lot of times the women are the ones who are also concerned, right? The wives are concerned. Okay, am I divorced now from my husband because he couldn't control his temper, right?
They are giving advice, yes. And I have heard of people who got divorced because not getting advice from it.
Well,
Yeah.
usually here's how it plays out. That if someone comes more or less anonymously, meaning the scholar doesn't know who you are, then the scholar is going to give you the simplest, most direct answer that will also not pull the scholar in. Okay? And I'm saying this even from my own experience. People come to me asking for a fatwa, right, about whatever the case is. And 90% of the time, I know they're not going to give me the whole story, right? Sometimes intentionally they're not going to give me the whole story. Sometimes they just don't realize they're not giving me the whole story, right? And so now they're asking me for an opinion, okay? In order to tell them, okay, this is beyond my pay grade. But I will give them whatever opinion is sound in terms of text and keeps me out of their problem. Okay? Because most of the time, they're asking me to come clean up their mess, right? And so if that's it, if someone gives me a 5-minute explanation, I'm going to give them a cut and dry answer. So the point being that if you have this scenario and you call almost every scholar in Chicago, almost all of them, if not all of them, will say, no, you're divorced. If, however, you sit with them for 2 hours and explain the whole thing, then often they'll give you a very different answer.
You have to follow what the Quran says.
Yeah? And what does the Quran say?
And then the first thing the Quran says is that you cannot just base, if you are judging between control of your decision, you have to listen to both sides of the story before you say something.
Okay, but
That will cause real damage not
if
just to the person but the society.
okay, but that's well and good and ideal. But what happens 90% of the time, someone comes to you after Jummah khutbah, right? Says, okay, can you talk to me? I'm trying to get out of there. All right, fine, you have to talk to me, right? And then they give me a 5-minute explanation, okay? And either I can say, you have to give me the full story, which I often do, and then they tell me this is the full story. Okay? So they're going to get the exact answer according to that 5-minute story. See what I'm saying? Yes. But that's for Allah Ta'ala to decide, right? If it's a social matter.
No, I mean, this lady wrote this book, Jesus the Holy Truth. I was in the class, and her argument is about that adulterous woman and Jesus is drawing line in the sand and just throw the first stone. And that's God's mercy is forgiven, and people are following the law. And
Okay.
so then excesses are made. Because often
Okay, but that's not the issue we're talking about. I'm saying you got to understand the situation of a scholar, of a khatib. Okay? What happens is that people come and they want a fatwa, right? But usually they want a fatwa that agrees with them. Okay? And so they give a small paragraph of facts. Okay? And in almost every case, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now. No, I need an answer. Then here's your answer. Right? So I would say in an ideal sense, we'll sit down, we'll talk. In some cases, I can get them to do that, right? Sit down and explain the entire story to me. Okay? And then, like for example, I had this at MEC after a Jummah khutbah. Okay. In anger, I said talaq 3 times to my wife. Am I divorced? Yes. Okay. Give me the whole story. And then, so we sat there. I just happened to have time this time, right? Okay. In fact, no. It was the son and the father. They wouldn't let me go. They were physically holding me, okay. Right? Which, I don't know how you can justify that, right? They're refusing to let me leave. I had to go to 2 appointments, and I had to go to the airport. Okay. That was not important to them. I said this to them. So I said, all right, let's talk. So explains this whole story. You know, I have an anger problem, this, that. I'm seeing a psychiatrist now, so forth and so on. You know, I said talaq and I didn't mean it, and this and that, this and that, this and that, right? So I said, then I pointed to this. Okay. So then it doesn't count. They said, well, can you tell my wife? I said, I have to go. No, just please, please. You know, he starts crying. Father starts crying. I'm like, seriously? You guys are grown men, right? Okay. So I went to their friend's house where the wife was staying, and then I had to give her the whole explanation too. And then she said, why is it when I call every scholar, they all say no? Because I said, if you called me, I'd give the same answer too, right? If you're only going to give me this much information, you're going to get an answer according to that much information. So.
Scholars are doing this service because they are not thinking about the woman. That they casually say, oh, my time is up or whatever.
But that's not what it is.
That much authority.
You're speaking as people who have no experience whatsoever with this challenge.
So that's why, no wonder we don't have any much confidence.
That's no. It's you can't hold them to account when people are not coming.
Destroying lives.
No. We're not destroying lives. The issue. Yeah. Okay. I give a Jummah khutbah, and I know people are going to come to me. You know, asking for a massive fatwa on some life-altering situation of a mess that they created, and they're trying to pull me into their mess, right? Okay.
Then
But
why can't you refuse?
I do, and I'm telling you, these are the antics that people do. Literally, right at MEC, after one of these khutbahs, this father and son are physically holding me, right? But who do I give the time to? I give the time to 20-year-olds, right? If they're 40-year-olds, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Right. Yeah, I'm saying.
My advice to you would be to
Yeah. Yeah, it's 20-year-olds when they come to me, I'll give them time.
Because I know of some women who, because of these kind of advices, they literally, they have 2 kids, and the man who gives the divorce back to the same scenario.
Okay.
And called MCC, they said it's done. The same thing, the woman called, and then we are trying to explain to her. The Quran, and she said, no, but the Maulana.
But the flaw in what you're presenting is so here's what I always ask to people. I have to triage all these calls and texts I get. I tell them, okay, explain to me your whole problem in an email, okay, and then I'll get back to you. That doesn't happen, right? Which means then you're going to get the short answer, right? If you give me even a page email explaining the situation, that's different than a 2-minute explanation, right? And the result is absolutely lives get destroyed, but I'm saying you can't put that on the scholar, right? You have to put it on the culture of how we approach the scholar and how how we're addressing our problems, right? The scholar is one factor in that. You know what I mean?
Said, do you really want me to give an answer that's going to affect your whole life and your whole future? You turn it back on them and say, how can I possibly give you an answer?
They really don't understand that. Yeah. They're already coming saying, you know, I'm hopeless, help me. You know, give me an answer to this, but this is all they're giving me.
Nixon
Right.
one time said that President Nixon, he said the American common public is more smarter than the president. And when you talk about scholars and stuff like that, I doubt the scholars. People should believe Allah wa Ghafur Rahim. If you did it 1,000 times with your wife and you are willingly
Good.
to God, God will help.
So if they make that decision on their own, then they don't have to come to me, right?
Yeah, they should.
So they're coming to me saying, give me an answer, right? And essentially I'm saying, okay, I've been pulled into people's messes too many times, and if this is all I'm going to get, this is all you're going to get. Tried it, but
I think they want the answer, yes.
yeah,
And that's what they want.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What I don't understand is if you were a lawyer or you was a doctor, if someone came and gave you a few bits of information, you could totally not give them an answer. You could say, oh, I think you have cancer. You know, I mean, or which, you know,
I even get tempted for that. Okay, they tell me other symptoms, and I get tempted to tell them, well, you obviously need to go see a physician, right? I can't help you with your legal question. So I'm saying in an ideal sense, sure. Sit down, give me a 2-hour explanation. But people don't want to do that. So, yeah, that's what this comes down to. Right. So essentially, what are we saying? In 2 contexts here is where you see this. When someone's life is in danger, or in the context of the whole passage, when someone makes a statement ending their marriage without realizing the seriousness of what they've just said. Yeah.
So if it was not intentional, Talaq it was just due to anger.
Yeah.
They are both
General rules.
So, I'll give you one case. Just exactly like this, same type of scenario where the 2-hour story, I told them after they give me the 2-hour story, I give them this. Right? But then when I was with him and the wife, telling them both the same thing, I said to the husband, okay, I don't consider you divorced now, but if you say talaq one more time, out of anger or not, your divorce is done. Right? That you can also not use anger as an excuse.
Are these statistics based on something that somebody can declare a name?
I don't understand the question.
What I'm saying is, here is a general guideline. But now, if you put 5 scholars will give different answers. I don't think if you put them separate thing and take them, I don't think their reasoning of this thing would be almost the same.
And if we're speaking of the abstract sense, if we were to have 5 scholars in Chicago, chances are they'll probably give the same answer, together or separate. Right?
Because they're of the same country.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If you go to a priest or something, he says, read these ayah and see what you make out of it. From the different thing.
That's a priest. Yeah. Okay. So now we're talking about dissolution. لِلَّذِينَ يُؤْلُونَ إِلَّا مِن نِسَائِهِمْ. One scenario which is different than talaq and different than khula. So talaq is male initiated, husband initiated. Khula is female, wife initiated. Illa or ila. This is when the husband says, okay, I don't want anything to do with this. Okay. It's not the same as divorce. Okay. But you have 4 months. Okay. So this is basically saying I'm separating for 4 months. So that's how much time you're given. Cool. And if you change your mind, Allah is forgiving, merciful, you can go back. I don't understand. Like, what do people try to do differently?
No, like if you say 2 times, that's it, it's done. Then the process of how it should be done.
Okay.
Just open the Quran and it's written there.
Okay. So why would they say?
We have to use our own brains, man.
Okay.
Something is written in the Quran, that's it.
Okay.
It's done. If
Okay.
you can't find it, then you try to
Okay.
go to Sunnah or
Okay.
go to,
Okay. So, okay. Sure. So if that's the case, why would scholars say that, one setting, talaq is a divorce? Why would they say that?
That's what I'm saying. I don't
Okay.
know.
So,
How can you go against the Quran? You cannot go against the Quran when it's clearly written.
so the reason being that it often gets abused, right? So the fatwa usually gets pulled in some cases, like you said, when, we can't find an answer. A lot of times the fatwa is pulled in, someone's seeking a fatwa, when they've corrupted the situation, right? So, say talaq. The default opinion would be, no, it counts as 1. You can say it 50 times all at one sitting, but it counts as 1. That would be the default opinion. But if the person is saying this, then to taunt and torture the wife, right? That, okay, I've said talaq 3 times, but it only counts as once. Okay.
And the wife could torture.
The wife can absolutely torture the husband too. But the point being that that's when these opinions come forward. That, all right, if you're going to say it 3 times, then it's an ending. Meaning, if someone's abusing a privilege that's given, that's when you see these fatwas.
But I thought you say it like you said 3 times or 50 times. There is a reason.
The default opinion is that counts as 1.
Right.
But suppose in that waiting period, the husband, out of fury and anger, just to taunt and make the wife miserable, keeps saying it. So then this is where a lot of fatwas you see, usually they're addressing those types of situations. You know, the Quran is pretty clear, the Prophet, peace upon him, is pretty clear, but an issue is getting abused. So that's where the fatwa comes in.
And how far is
So let me ask you this. You have a husband who says talaq to his wife, okay? And so now they're going through a waiting period. And he keeps saying it just to make her miserable. Okay? Then he can just say, Allah's ghafoor, I'm forgiven. But this is the point that I'm addressing.
It would be really nice sort of thing, something happened. That's totally okay.
But this is common, right? That if you have an amicable divorce, then talaq, you go your separate ways, figure everything out. If why do we have such rules? It's when it's not an amicable situation, then these processes are put into place, right?
So the whole thing would boil down to in case children are born.
Not even before. I mean, aside from that, just an inability to conduct yourself with dignity, right? Which when people are fighting, that's what happens. So then from there, وَإِنْ عَزَمُوا الطَّلَاقِ. So if they have decided upon talaq, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Allah is hearer and knower. Now, a small point but big point. So divorce is permitted in our tradition, right? It's the most disliked or the most hated of all the permitted things. Why is it important that it's permitted? Because in textbook Catholicism, it's not permitted. Why is it important?
Allah has given us a place.
That is beautiful. Whatever is there is really reasonable.
Yeah.
These kind of modern kind of context, it's very reasonable thing.
Yeah.
Even in Hinduism, you cannot divorce.
Yeah, sure.
Once you're done, your chances are finished. The woman chances.
Yeah, for eternity, essentially. Yeah.
This is absolutely really nice.
Beautiful in the sense that all this is, to me, makes me closer to Islam because I think it has so much more protection.
Yeah. This is the point that I'm leading to. That if you have two people who are unhappily married together and they have no choice, in many cases the end result's going to be a lot of abuse. Right? Yeah.
There are religion there. But when it comes for settlement, then how do they explain that Allah can also be ihsan?
Okay.
How that ihsan is interpreted with that?
Okay. Well, there's a sentence here at the end that the meaning will be one thing, and then the commentary you'll find to be very interesting.
And that's why we go down here.
Okay, so let's see. Oh, class is done. I guess we'll have to wait till next. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Okay. وَمُطَلَّقَاتٍ. Okay. يَتَرَبَّصْنَا. Okay, so the women who are divorced shall wait. Okay, keeping themselves apart for, how is this translated? What's the word? ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء. Okay, so essentially 3 periods. Okay. It is not lawful for them that they should conceal what Allah Ta'ala has created in their wombs if they're believers in Allah in the last day. So as we know, one purpose of the waiting period is to see if there's any children. Okay. Cool. And their husbands would do better to take them back if they desire reconciliation. Okay. If my goal is to serve Allah Ta'ala, if my wife is seeking reconciliation, then it's better for me to take her back. Okay. Now, how do you make sense of this last part? And they, referring to the women, lahunna, have rights similar to those of men over them. Bil ma'ruf, here he translates it as kindness, and men are a degree above them. How do you translate this? Allah's mighty ways. Okay.
Responsibility too.
Responsibility? Okay.
They have a,
Okay.
They are someone,
Okay.
protected.
Okay.
No therapy, just someone.
Okay. Okay.
a degree is not a big deal.
You'll be very, very surprised by the commentary. Sorry? Yeah. We all read it as responsibility. Okay. According to Abdullah ibn al-Abbas, what does this mean? It means that the husband, the man, has a greater right to give, or the greater obligation to give in. If there's a conflict in negotiation, man being 1 degree above means he has a higher responsibility to give in to what she's demanding. Yeah, you like that? Oh, mashallah. Suddenly we like tafsir. Wow. How does that work out? Mashallah.
Where are they hiding this?
Yeah.
That's what I would like.
I'm sorry? It's available in English. Yeah, inshallah. So this is Abdullah ibn Abbas's commentary. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You have enough.
Abdullah ibn al-Abbas. Yeah. Funny how suddenly tafsir becomes so appealing now. MashaAllah. Wow. Okay.
Because most of the time it's the other way around.
But doesn't
Once in a while we
isn't
hear something to
yeah, but isn't the Quran clear? Doesn't it have an answer for everything? Okay, mashallah. Okay.
get excited about it.
Good, alhamdulillah. Okay. Continuing. So again, these are the technical rules. Divorce must be pronounced twice, and then the wife must be retained in honor or released in kindness. It is not lawful for you. Sorry.
Is this kindness the translation of person?
Ihsan.
Ihsan is so big.
It's much higher than kindness.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. The interesting thing is here, ihsan is translated as kindness, and in the previous ayah, ma'ruf is translated as kindness, and those are two very, very different words. Okay. Okay, it is not lawful for you that you take from women anything of that which you have given them. So what is that referring to? Meher. Meher. You can't take the meher back. Okay. Except when they both fear that they may not be able to keep within the limits of Allah. Okay. If you fear that you may not be able to keep within the limits of Allah, then it is no sin if, here it says, the woman ransom herself. What does that mean? She gives back, she gives back some or all the meher. If you're concerned, you can't come to proper terms. Okay. Do not transgress them, for whoever transgresses the limits of Allah, they are the wrongdoers. So, what is another principle to take from this? Okay, cut and dry, this is the process of divorce, but as is the case in so many other situations, you're going to have complicated matters. Okay. So one point we've made is that if the two cannot come to an agreement, then his responsibility as being 1 degree higher is to be more willing to give in. Okay, and then here is that, okay, even in things like meher, okay, take it physically and symbolically. It's hers, she owns it. Okay, but if that's going to facilitate this process easier to give it back, then do that. The goal being to keep stability, right? To keep relations as good as possible.
So is the hududullah, when you hududullah,
Yeah.
You cannot do zulm on God. So
Sir?
zulm is on themselves.
Okay.
So whoever are divorcing 5 times, 10 times, they're going to be doing it to themselves.
Yeah,
I think that God would get offended in this thing.
okay. But the point being,
Yeah.
you might be causing dhulm to the other person, right? And that's what we're trying to minimize. Yeah. Okay. So then if he has divorced her, it is not lawful for them to marry her unless she's wedded another husband. This is, we call this halala, right? Okay. If he divorces her, it is no sin for both of them that they come together again if they consider that they are able to observe the limits of Allah. Meaning, she marries someone else, it's consummated, they divorce, and then they can come back if they have confidence that they're not going to break Allah's rules. Okay. These are the limits of Allah. He manifests them for people who have knowledge. Okay, again, continuing the theme. When you have divorced women, they have reached their term, then retain them in kindness or release them in kindness. Here, it's ma'ruf again. Okay. Retain them not to their hurt, so that you transgress the limits. Dirar, meaning you cannot use this as an excuse to cause injury. Okay. Again, common in marriage, or common in divorce. He who does that, and this is related to your point, has wronged himself. Okay. So, do not make the revelations of Allah a laughingstock. Okay. Yeah, this is the recurring theme, that I can follow all the rules, okay, in such a way to misuse them. Okay. And so the point is,
It looks like Allah is giving more orders to men. You see that the women are not mentioned. So
yeah, I know, I'm also noticing the grin too, but yeah, alhamdulillah.
because I'm just saying that there is the abuse happening.
Yeah.
Allah knows that this
Yeah.
is why there are more rules for men versus
Yeah, I'd say it's completely legitimate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's usually women. But,
Well, I mean, physically, in terms of strength.
there are cases, out of 10, maybe 8, 9 is the men's, power, power, cruel display or whatever. Maybe out of 10, maybe one woman is there.
Sure.
So,
Were you going to say something?
no.
Okay. Yeah, so again, do not make, let's see, وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا. So do not make a mockery of the ayahs of Allah. Okay, so again, what is the point? This is all very serious stuff. And instead, remember Allah's grace upon you and that which He has revealed to you of the kitab and the hikmah. And He calls upon you to have taqwa. And to know that Allah knows all things. Okay. And consistent theme, I think that we're all familiar with these passages. Okay. 232. Okay. وَإِذْ تَلَقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَا أَجْلَهُنَّ. So when you have divorced women, they have reached their term. Do not put any difficulties in them marrying their husbands. Okay. Again, don't make it difficult on them. Once you divorce them, they're not in your jurisdiction. Okay. If it is agreed upon them in kindness, this is an admonition. This is a warning. What is the word? Yu'adhu, so mawa'idh. An admonition for those of you who believe in Allah on the last day. And this is more virtuous for you and cleaner for you. Allah knows you do not know. Okay. So, we have the rules. We're all familiar with the rules. So what are the ethics? The central ethic is to have a separation, a dissolution with kindness. Okay? And if you can't have kindness, then you have the rules. Okay? The goal is to keep stability in both parties' lives as much as possible. That's the recurring ethic. Question?
There was one thing that I guess we would play with.
Please.
Concealing of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Would that be just for the purposes of if she wants to be divorced and then he doesn't want him to take her out?
So if she doesn't want anything to do with him, she wants him out of her life completely, right? If she's pregnant, she can't do that.
She doesn't have that right to
Yeah.
cut him out of her life.
Because that is her child and it's his child, yeah. Yeah. It's a very important point, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's stop here. The conversation is going to change then to nursing and then to inheritance and such. And that'll be a good shift in conversation for our next class, inshallah. Okay. So this is the overall theme from today's ayahs. The overall theme being that, okay, this split is a reality. Okay. And the goal, the very difficult goal sometimes, is that if you can't split amicably, then you got to try to have kindness. To the point that even adjusting some of the rules, if that will give kindness, if that will give stability, then that's also possible. Okay. Okay, any last questions or thoughts?
But he doesn't talk about all the themes, like here the divorce takes place according to civil law.
A lot of that is, when it says ma'ruf, or urf, which is what that comes from, there's a couple understandings. One would be, okay, kindness. Another, whatever it is your normal practice in your culture. So, I'm sorry?
You know, just give up the pair of clothes and let it go.
Well, it depends on the culture.
In India, that's why divorce.
So like here there's much more of a system, right? And so,
Not here, even in India.
Okay.
There was no system before, but now they have.
yeah, now they have a system, you're saying. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they make a big noise with the ulama when a woman says, I'm not follow the Muslim law, I'm going to follow the civil law.
Because they get more rights and such, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult part when you're in a society where Islam has been present for 500,000, 2,000, 1,000 years, that then you have this whole legacy that complicates everything, right? The advantage we have right now is we can establish all that the way we think is right, you know.
According to this, the Muslim law is much better, so what the women are saying is wrong.
Factually, it's wrong.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The scholars have made it like that. But the Quran doesn't say. Quran doesn't
I
say
think,
anything.
but I mean, there's some matters where the Quran is not giving details, right? And so,
Quran is saying, with the ihsan and with, all of Farouk. No, but the Quran is saying that don't take their meher, whatever you give, don't take it back. And also, when you marry them, you have to keep them according to your standards. I think later on it says that when you divorce her also, you have to give her according to your standards. Whatever
meaning,
your standards.
when you're in the waiting period, the situation still remains the same.
Maintain that,
Yeah.
Not all standards.
Mhm.
So
The-
the standard is, if I'm rich, then I have to maintain her.
The problem is not so much in terms of even how the Islamic law is being implemented, it's how can I get around it, right? That if there's not an authority to support it, then it's easy to abuse, right? So if the Islamic legal system doesn't have any authority, any power, then it's the easiest thing to abuse, right? And so that's why people will turn to civil law. So. Okay, any of the last questions, thoughts? Yeah, Muhammad. Yeah. Some will say 3 months, some will say 4 months. And essentially, so the question is, when does the process begin? Okay, so suppose you have a menstrual cycle that begins 2 weeks after, or it begins 4 weeks after, right? So theoretically, it could be as much as 4 months, 10 days, give or take, right? The point is that, okay, when the talaq is said, how far before the cycle is it, right? And so it could be theoretically 4 months. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts?
So the zulm is anybody who does excesses, he does against himself.
Meaning he's doing it against himself, but in the context it could be against...
And to follow for the doing, very nice, for primitive society that was there, it sets the ground even that applies now. So, really nice.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Well, it's coming from Allah Ta'ala, so yeah. Okay. Okay. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Okay, may Allah Ta'ala reward you all. Another good discussion. Inshallah, we will continue next week. And yeah.
We have the annual dinner usually on March 15th, as I said before.
So 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
So
Inshallah.
we have maybe 2 classes.
So we'll have class next
we may
week.
not have a class on the day of the
Yeah, because same day.
same day.
Yeah.
So the 2 classes, 2 more classes. We will have 2 more classes. So it would be nice if we can have one table there. The individual tickets are $75 each. If we have a table, it's $650. So we can save $10. So if we can all participate and join, then we can save $10.
Sure.
It would be nice to
Yeah.
have a table there for one class.
Or a Quran class. That's a pretty cool idea. Yeah. Jazakallah.
We have to get so inshallah.
Okay, inshallah.